Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So, in second lecture today, we'll talk about the Leeds basic certification. You must be knowing why we are going to the detail of certification because the future is of now green building, and any project you will do once you are in professional life, there will be a time in near future that you have to design it like a green, and that's why it's very important for you to know about the basics of the green building, and getting LEED certification is one of the tool of having a green building concept accepted worldwide. So when we say LEED based certification, it is dependent upon the number of points earned. LEED 100 base points plus 6 innovation in design and regional priority points. So the LEED certification, uh, all normally, if you have 40 to 49 points, we categorize is the certified. If you have gained 50 to 59 points, then it's a silver. And if you have got 80 and above, then it's platinum. So what here is achieving a higher points would mean that you will be, have a preferred funding for the levels. So if you have a platinum level, obviously your chances of chances of earning the fundings and the credits will become more obvious than the if you have some certain other levels. So in order to be competitive, you have to go for the maximum point, that is the platinum points. So what are the minimum basic requirements of this program? It must comply with the environmental laws. It must be a complete permanent building or space. It must use a reasonable site boundary. It must comply with minimum floor area requirements. It must comply with minimum occupancy rates. It must commit to sharing whole building energy and water usage data, and it must comply with the minimum building area to site area ratio. So we go, what is the must commit to sharing whole building energy and water usage data? What I mean is for a period of at least 5 years in a free, accessible, and secure online tool, or if necessary, taking any actions to authorize the collection of information directly from service or utility providers. It must carry forward if the building space changes ownerships or the leasing. Once you have been certified, it doesn't mean you will not get a decertification, and that is you will have a decertification if you have got the minimum program requirement that we call MPR, and it contains a preamble and the note that you have to achieve this much credit in future. So if you have MPR and nothing is being done, then you may have a decertification. And then if you think that you have submitted a project, the project was going online, but it was the efforts only at the start of taking the certification. So if Leeds found out that there is non-compliance once you have said you have been certified, then it can take your license back. So we have to be very careful not only uh, coming up with the that certification, but as well as keeping the standards of the certification in future as well. Now, there is a terminology known as green globes. Uh, we say green globes. What I mean is the environmental impact assessed on a 1000 point scale in multiple categories like energy, indoor environment, site, water, resources, emissions, project, and environmental management. After achieving a threshold of at least 35% of the total number of 1000 point, that is 350 points, new and existing commercial buildings can be certified for their environmental achievements and sustainability by pursuing Green Globe certification that assigns a rating for 1 to 4 globes. Two categories, there is a new category and the other is a continued improvement of existing buildings. As I've said in my first lecture, NAD is going to the second phase, that is the continued improvement of the existing building. In new construction, there are two stages. One is the review of construction documents, working drawings, landscape designs, energy analysis, LCA, documentation, commissioning reports, etc. Stage 2, on-site walkthrough, review of additional documentation, and interviews of any key members. Now, in the continual improvement of existing building, we mean extensive documentations, review, and on-site visit with a walkthrough and interview of facility manager and the chief engineer. Then there is another program, what we call an Energy Star program. It's a program of the US Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and it is focused on energy consumption, and it has different tools for residential and commercial buildings. Energy Star for residential is based on Home Energy Rating System HERX index established by the Residential Energy Services Network. Home meeting the 2000 International Conservation Code scores 100 and a net zero energy home scores 0. So each 1 point decreases in HER's index corresponds to a 1% reduction in energy consumption compared to HERS reference score. So essentially doesn't mean a good score in HERS. To qualify for Energy Star, for example, a home in Washington, climate zone 4, 5, or 6 must achieve HERS index of 85 or lower. Then there is a National Energy Performance Rating system in energy for commercial buildings, that is for 1 to 100. A building scores 75 or above, placing its energy performance among the top 25% among similar buildings, can earn an Energy Star label. Energy Star also offers an energy management tools, portfolio managers on the Energy Star government website. Now, what are the possible problems? What are the issues? One of the biggest issue is the change of the ownership, what we call leasing. The landlords and tenant must have competing economic interests in green building. Landlords wants to recover higher cost of green building, Tenants want to benefit from the lower operating costs. The key is to align respective control with responsibility and cost with benefit. For instance, landlord responsible for maintaining a green performance of shell and core, tenant responsible for green performance of TIS and equipment. Now, I have discussed this word shell and core before without explanation because I think it's it's very nominal. But for those who really want to know what is a shell and what is a core, shell means the basic structure of the building, and core is the vertical infrastructure of the floor. So when we say a shell and core, we mean all the horizontal and vertical distribution of the buildings that are being maintained green. And when we say tenant, it is the responsible for the green performance impacts of the buildings and its equipment. Both landlord and tenant should convenient not to act in manner that jeopardize green certification or grants or financing. They are best to establish expectations and responsibilities in letter of intent, including applicable green certification standards. Lease forms should complement to applicable standard. In case of this public sector university like NED, we don't have this problem because we are the tenants and we are the leasing authority. So those who are the owner and those who are using, if they are the same one, then this will not be a problem. The problem arises when those who have leased and those uh, who are the landlord, they are different, and that's where we come across in US, they come across many conflicts arising of those issues. The problem is this is there is a wide range of documentation simply intend to comply with the LEED program, green addendum, model green leases, and green work letter. Now, in green issues, other aspect is to be addressed is the design or construction. For that, the, the goals of the client should be properly identified. The contractors is assigned and is asked to achieve those goals, and the liabilities when goals are not met, ensuring edge against failures, and commissioning ongoing maintenance and operations. These are some of the issues related to design and construction of the green buildings, or for instance its certification. So when we say identifying the client goal, we have to address these four areas. That is, what is the desired results, that is LEED certification, where are the credits to be gained, what limitation exists, existing land use codes, CC and Rs will limit design choice. Then what are the tax credit? If the tax credit requires placing the building in service by a certain date, how will that date be maintained? Then there are moral and ethical values of sustainability and how to define them. The cost, then there is any project involves trade-offs. No client will want a green result if its cost cannot be justified. Then if you come to the contracting model, there are traditional models in which owner contracts for design, then contracts separately with contractor for construction. Then there is a design build model in which owner contracts with one entity to provide design and construction. And there is a integrated delivery similar to design and build. Those now, since you are in final years, you must have by now all those contract documents uh, yourself. So it's simply those models that is being discussed in the green issues as well, and how it can jeopardize your certification. When we say a traditional model, we say owner contracts with the architects. It need to be sure design contract embodies and does not hinder client goals. The cost may not may need more extensive design development phase to more clearly define goals, costs, and trade-offs. Then there is an architectural standard of care. Typical contracts do not place burden on architect to achieve green results in vacuums, meet specific undertaking regarding design, timing to meet client goals. AIA commits an architect only to design, to consider green issues and discuss them with owner unless the architect agrees to assume a grade 2. Then there is an insurance. Typical insurance does not cover contractual undertaking, samples breach of warranty and breach of contract. Need to define architects' standards of care such as that failure to design green results in a breach, and green specific insurance products are limited to non-existent. Then there is a typical contract clause may limit owner's right in the event of failure. AIA documents contain mutual waiver of client for consequential damages. It is the loss of a tax credit due to defective design and consequential damages, lost anticipated increase in rents, and the lost financing. Who is responsible for administering the lead process? There is an AIA form B214 in US. Architects undertake specific duties may not be adequate depending on the client goals. So when we say identifying client goals, how does a contractor react to those goals in achieving the design, the timing, qualifying for a tax credit may require placing the building in service by a date certain, and who assumes the liability for late completion. The construction process, some lead credit applied to the construction process, like recycling of building materials, generally controlled for the environmental impacts of the construction process. Now, for achieving the result, does the contractor clearly undertakes work that is necessary to achieve the results in terms of timing, the construction process, substitutions, and commissioning? How does the contractor allocate the risk of failures? Consider warranties, considers liquidated damages, oblique performance bonuses. If green goal depends on completion by a certain date, the contractor should say so and include damages incentives. And do other contract clauses potentially impair or challenge the allocation of the risk? It depends on consequential damages limitations. Uh, there is one lesson from the trenches, that is, there was a shore development versus southern builders. There was a dispute. About $7.5 million 23 unit condo project completed in 2006. It desired LEED silver rating. Contractor brought suit for balance owed. Owner counterclaimed for damages of $635,000, in part relating to the lost tax credit when contractor failed to complete in time to recover them. Settled for undetermined sum. Specifications including the requirement, but contract documents were not clear as to undertaking of the contract. Counterclaim alleged breach of contract and the negligence. So that's these are the lens. These are the example of how if you are developing green building, you must be very focused on the issues. And that's why it's been explained in detail here. So, what are the conclusion of this green building concepts? It is that green building certification present a moving target, critical to work with clients early and continuously to determine goals and objectives, focus on objective performance measures, and clear allocation of risk and responsibilities. Green building issues are presented in the nearly phase. Every phase of the development, look for opportunities to improve old practices and boilerplate. Don't get bogged down, but don't be afraid to innovate.